You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. In this show, we go beyond the campfire stories to bring you firsthand encounters from people who say they've seen something impossible, from backwoods trails and remote mountain haulers to quiet farms and crowded highways. The stories come from everywhere, and each one leaves us with more questions than answers. These are the voices of the people who've lived it, so settle in, because today you'll hear another account that just might change the way you see the woods forever. So stay with us. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to Shelley Heaton today. She is the founder of the Sweet Home Oregon Sasquatch Research Group on Facebook, and also off of Facebook. I mean, you guys are out there doing some boots on the ground research as well, as we'll probably hear about in a bit. But, welcome to the show, Shelley. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Absolutely. And myself as well. It feels like we were just all in Oak Ridge about 2 months ago, which is crazy. That
I know, it feels like yesterday.
But it was really fun. You were one of the people that I was excited to meet in person, or to talk a little bit there in person with. And it's such a fun festival. If people can make it to the Sasquatch Summerfest in Oak Ridge, I would really, really recommend that they check it out, and you'll hear about that as we get closer to it. But
every year it gets better.
It really does. To talk about it for a little bit, there were people, I don't know if you noticed this at your booth, but at my booth, I was talking to people all over the U.S. that were at that festival.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I had people from Pennsylvania, down California, Canada, all over. And it is really starting to become a huge festival. And I'm excited to, plans are already made to be there again next year. So that'll be the third year for me. So I'm excited. But, Shelley, I want to make sure that we have the time for you to share some interesting experiences you've been a part of out there in the Cascade region of Oregon. Would you consider Sweet Home to be in the foothills of the Cascades?
We are directly in the foothills. As a matter of fact, our motto is we are the gateway to the Cascades. So
I love it. I love it.
I love it too.
I'll tell you what. So before we get going, after the festival last year, I took 126 past Leeburg and McKenzie Bridge and over Santiam Junction over to Sisters. And it was like, oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? It's crazy up there. It was fun.
And that's part of my area too, all the way. So I research just north of me at Detroit Lakes, and then I come down to the Sweet Home area, all the way down to McKenzie Watershed, and then back up to Sisters. Like that whole area is my research area. So, and it's great. I love it.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was your research area went out that far. That is really good to know. But I'd say, before we get too far into it, can you share a little bit about what got you into the whole Bigfoot subject to begin with?
Yeah, I'd love to. So when I was 5 years old, and I'll try to make it short, but when I was 5 years old, I saw a UFO with my aunt. And I remember, all I can really remember about that incident was that I saw something shiny and disc-shaped in the sky. It was hovering real low over a cornfield across the street from my house. And I asked my aunt, what is it? And she said, it's a UFO. And I was like, oh, cool, So that year, and I remember what year it was 1978, because I don't know if you remember this, Jeremiah. I don't know how old you are. I don't want to age you. But in 1978, we had a big snowstorm in the Midwest, and there was 8 feet of snow. So I remember it being that year because of that snowstorm. And that same year, I started having dreams about Bigfoot. And it was the same dream. It was a reoccurring dream, and it scared the heck out of me. I was petrified, and I had it very often. So I had that dream from the time I was 5 until I was 19. And I remember I woke up one morning when I was 19, and I was crying, and I was overwhelmed. I was stressed out because this dream, I would start out in an old house, in an old Victorian house, and there was no electricity. And I remember like gas lamps and wooden furniture. And I'd look out the front window, and there'd be a Sasquatch, this huge, hairy man, just walking up on the porch and gently opening the screen door and walking in the living room. And it startled me, and I would turn around and I would run through the house out the back door. And so I'd run out the back door through maybe like a grass field or, wheat or something like that. And every time I would turn around, he'd be walking behind me. And I felt like he was chasing me. At the time, probably because I was so young, but he really wasn't. He was just walking behind me, So fast forward, I had that dream. My aunt took me to one of her psychic healers, and we discussed it. And, she said this and that. And she said, well, you have to just confront him and tell him, stop scaring me. So I did. I confronted him, and he got right down into my face, and I was face to face with him. And he had the most, I don't want to say beautiful, but it wasn't a threatening face. It was just a very calm kind of, almost like a monkey face, and he got right in my face, and I said, please stop scaring me. You're terrorizing me. And so after that, I continued to have the dreams, but instead of him coming up to the porch and into the house, he sat behind a tree in my front yard and just watched me. He would peek around the tree and just keep an eye on me, So that was pretty comforting. But so that's how my obsession with Bigfoot began.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible. So that was ages 5 to 19?
5 to 19.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when I was in my early teens, after a friend of mine had passed away, I started having experiences with mediumship. And I started speaking to people who had passed while I was sleeping, only while I was sleeping.
And this all happened in the Midwest, you said?
Yeah, I lived in Michigan. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right in the center of the palm. Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. So that was definitely that was east of Manistee National Forest, I would guess. Okay.
Right in the center of the palm. So it's about 12 miles north of Battle Creek, Michigan. Battle Creek, where they make the cereal.
It's further south than I realized. It's south of Grand Rapids. Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So that all happened. And then that's how I came into my obsession with Bigfoot. Literally, took over my entire childhood, So fast forward, because of the mediumship, I started really getting into ghost hunting and stuff like that. And then, I lived my life. I did my bucket list before I had my baby at 42, So when I had my daughter, I became a Reiki master because I wanted to, try to help heal my body and my soul, before really getting into motherhood. And, I started having a lot of, feelings of Bigfoot again. And so I had the opportunity to go camping in Klamath Falls and Wolf Creek. And we had some...
No way.
Yeah, it was, oh my God, it was awesome. It was so primitive. Wolf Creek is so primitive. But so that when we were up there, I had a few experiences that were unexplained, just noises and sounds and feelings, energy, vibes and stuff. And so I was like, I have to move to Oregon. I was living in California at the time. So I was like, I got to move to Oregon. So we did. We packed up and we moved to Oregon. And I ended up in Sweet Home just because of the location and circumstances. And when I got to Sweet Home, I got a car and I had put stickers, a few Bigfoot stickers on them. And all of a sudden, it was like a magnet for people who wanted to talk. And these hunters and fishers and sportsmen would see the stickers on my car, and loggers too. Oh my gosh. So they would see the stickers on my car. They'd flag me down when I was driving through town, or they would wait in the parking lot at the grocery store and wait for me to come out of the grocery store to tell me their stories about Bigfoot. And it was overwhelming. I could not believe the amount of people, men in particular, who wanted to get this off their chest. You know what I mean? It was painful for them. But when they talked about it, they felt so much relief. And I felt that from them. And I was like, you know what? Something that Sweet Home doesn't have is a Bigfoot group. And I said, I felt like that this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm going to do. And this is what I'm going to focus on. And so I started the Sweet Home Sasquatch group, and I keep it private, and they trust me, and I keep my locations private. And it's just, ever since I started it, it's just been like this big, wonderful gift. And so that's when I put my boots on the ground, was when I started the group. And that was in February of 2024.
That is such a really cool story of how that whole journey. And because I honestly didn't know what your background was with all this. So really,
nobody does.
Really cool
I know. That's why I wanted to tell you, Jeremiah, because I was like, I feel like this is a story that is really going to resonate with a lot of people, and then they'll be able to understand me a little bit more.
So one thing you said was very interesting. I want to make sure that I heard it right. So you're driving around in this town and you have just a few probably like basic Bigfoot silhouette stickers on the back, and you have people actually saying like, pull over, I need to talk to you.
Yes. Yeah, that was before I decked my car out. Now my rig is like, it's like the Bigfoot rig. But this was before all that. I just had a few stickers, and I think I had one in the window that said Bigfoot Research.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a magnet. Yeah.
How cool is that? So
yeah,
you created the group in Sweet Home. And did all of a sudden you start getting these people actually, doing boots on the ground things with you in real life, not just on Facebook? You have actual groups going out and investigating things, or how does it usually go?
Yeah. So generally it started out with just me and boots on the ground. And I would go to these locations where these people who had stop me or flag me down, these reports that I've gotten, I started going to those specific locations that they had given me and researching them. And then slowly people in the group, started to get interested and wanted to participate. So now I have a small group. There are 5 of us, and then myself, so 6 altogether. So yeah, and then we just, that's what we do. And then I also sometimes I have people like Priscilla from Oak Ridge, and I had Jimmy from Washington come down. So I have different people come down and do research with me, who have areas of expertise or whatever. So yeah. So I started learning. Yeah, I started learning the trails in Sweet Home, and I know the system now. I went up to the ranger station and I asked them for a map, and I also asked them for reports, and they're not allowed to take reports. However, they do tell me that they get a lot of reports, and they give me the locations of where they get the reports from. So anybody who's listening who wants to, find out more about their area, go to the ranger station. They're not supposed to take reports, but if you find the right one, they'll talk to you. So
I think that's just real quick. That's a huge takeaway for listeners. It sounds like you got the relationship going with the Rangers. You were probably, nice, just Shelley, bubbly, just the way you are. And they're like, well, yeah, let's contact this person from here on out, which is really cool. Or maybe you go there every week or so and you're like, hey, anything new? I don't know how you do it, but it is pretty cool.
I go there about once a month. Yeah. Yeah, once a month I'll go in there and, see if they have any new maps or any new information. I make sure I go in there when the right people are working,
Absolutely. Your area has come up a few times on the podcast. I believe I talked to a lady about some weird things that happened up in Green Peter Reservoir area. And of course, you don't have to confirm or deny since, you're not really saying locations, which is fine. But but there are episodes out there on the same podcast where you can listen to Sweet Home Things. But, so the question for you is, so you move to this area, you're starting to get the reports from people on the street, from the Rangers. It's really getting interesting. Is there a time when you first have an actual encounter or something weird happen in this area to yourself?
Absolutely. So in the summer of 24, right after I started the group, I started finding a lot of structures and footprints in a couple of different camping areas and also logging areas up off of Highway 20. And so I didn't really, in this area, I didn't really get a lot. I went up to Washington and I did some research up there with a friend of mine. And I had some experiences like rock clapping and stuff like that. But I didn't visually see anything until this summer. And so this is when it all started to happen. And so I went up. I guess I'll start with the summer. I went up in the spring to one of the local campgrounds. It was 2 days after they had actually opened. It was I think they opened on May 7th and I went on the 9th or something like that. And we were driving down a trail and it was a group camp. So all the group campsites were locked. The gates were locked, but the trail was open. And we were, one of my research partners and we were driving in my car down the trail and it's an out and back. So we were driving down the trail and I thought I saw to the left of me, like a head and shoulders and a back or something. And I didn't know right away if it was a bear or what it was. So I hurried up and stopped the car. And when I stopped the car, a tree was blocking me. So I had to back up. So I stopped the car, backed up, took me about 3-4 seconds. And I looked again, and that head and shoulders, it still had the back to me. And mind you, the bushes, the berry bushes and stuff like that were really high. So it was really thick kind of prickly stuff that you would have to truck through. So he was about 10 feet away. And then when I backed up and looked, he was like another 30 feet away. And it was so strange. It was like time lapse. So I was like, okay. And I looked down and I said, look at that, look. And I grabbed my phone. And as I lifted my phone up, it had moved another 30 or 40 feet to the left. So it was behind me. I couldn't really turn around and, so I backed up again and it disappeared. So just like that, it was like boom, 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 and it was gone. And I was just like, okay, what just happened here? Because this is not normal. Like I said, it was kind of like time lapse. So it was really just kind of in pictures almost. I didn't see it move. And so that was my first experience.
Wow.
And yeah, it startled me. And I thought, well, maybe I'm going crazy. I don't know, because it wasn't normal. It definitely wasn't natural.
Man, I want to hang out there for a minute. So
Mm-hmm.
it is so very interesting. So you saw it from the back view, head, shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
back. How tall would you say it was approximately?
Oh, at least 6 feet.
Okay.
I know that if I would have stood up, it would have, towered at least a head or so above me.
And would you
Yeah.
say it was a certain color?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like a reddish brown, but it was on the softer side. So like a pale reddish brown.
Okay. At any
Yeah.
time, did you see a front view of it, or was it always from the back view?
Never. It was always from the back or from the back side, but I didn't get a profile of it.
Gotcha. Were you
Yeah.
able to see what maybe the shape of the head looked like, even from the back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was conical.
Mm.
Definitely conical, and it didn't have ears, and that's why I thought at first it could have been a bear, but then I was like, it doesn't look like a bear. It looks like that's the only thing I could associate with it because I've never seen it in real life. You know what I mean? So the first thing you think of is, what can I compare it to? And I thought, well, it's got to be a bear, but no, not the way that it moved. No.
You also said something really interesting, which I hear come up a lot, and which
Mm-hmm.
is when you have a sighting of something immediately or soon after, sometimes the person will jump to, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy, because it
Mm-hmm.
is so jarring, right? And I've heard that come
Yeah.
up multiple times. So was this the thing that really, like, were you already over the 100% mark, or did this like really push you over once you had this actual sighting?
Yeah. This pushed me over. I was like at 99%
Yep.
just because I had such a strong pull to it, and my childhood was surrounded with, this thing, but this pushed me over 100%.
My goodness. It is absolutely
Mm-hmm.
wild. So there was another person with you, right?
Yeah, so I had one of my research partners, Tammy Byers, with me.
Okay.
Yeah, but she didn't see it.
Mm.
She did not. I pointed. I was like, "Look, Tammy, look," and she did not see it. Oh, but something I forgot. Something when we had. So it was an in and out trail. So we went down and we turned around and came back. And as we were leaving that trail, something was in those bushes right alongside the car on Tammy's side, which would have been the same side that I had saw the creature on. Something was moving the bushes, and I would stop the car and Tammy would say, the bushes are moving, they're moving, and I'd start the car and they'd start moving again. And it did that almost all the way off the trail, but we never saw anything in the bushes.
Wow. What an
Yeah.
incredible thing to experience. Also, if people are listening and they are thinking the same thing, like, oh, I'm crazy for seeing this, you're not. You're not crazy. It's just, this is a thing where
Yeah.
it's very unique to see, and it's a special thing for
Mhm.
you to see. So don't think you're crazy, guys.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
oh man. So after you had that sighting, how did that
Mhm.
affect you? Did you have any out of place emotions or thoughts, or did it make
Mhm.
your life weird for a while?
It did. Well, it made me want to go back out there. And it made me want to just, I kind of started obsessing over it. Like, I need to be out there. I need to figure out what this was and what it meant, because I felt like there was a reason why I saw it. So I felt like, um, this can't be it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a message. I don't know what it is, but I need to find out, you know? So yeah, so I went up, I started going out very often, like 2, 3, 4 times a week even. Um, and I started doing the trail, all the trails up there in that area, really hardcore. And as a matter of fact, one of this specific trail is one of the trails that the ranger told me that they had sightings on. So, so I was taking the trails, and I took another friend up there with me, who is not to be named because he wants to remain anonymous. And him and I together, we were finding structures and prints. And one time when we were coming out of this long trail, I was driving probably about 10 or 15 miles an hour. That's usually my speed limit back there. And I was watching in front of me, and probably about, I would say maybe 200 feet in front of me, I saw two black shadows. Well, one black shadow, but I saw it twice. It crossed the road, and then it came back really quickly. And I stopped the car, and I told my friend, I said, "What is going on up here? There's something going on. I just saw something." And just as he looked up, we both saw it again. And he was just like, "Wait, did you just see blah, blah, blah?" And I said, "Yeah, that's exactly what I saw." So I saw it twice, and then you saw it once. And, so I saw it 3 times. So we saw that, and we were, then I had to research that, like there's a lot of different stories about the shadow people of the forest and how they're messengers or protectors or, things like that. So yeah, that was yeah, it was really intense. Also life-changing,
No, absolutely.
So,
Did you, after you've had these experiences, did you notice any change in dreams at all?
No. Not at all, which is really surprising to me because since I've been in Sweet Home, I have not had any of my previous dreams that I have had.
Oh.
And none about Sasquatch. Yeah. And so that was another thing, Jeremiah, that thanks for reminding me. I felt like because I was missing those dreams, I was missing something, and I wanted to communicate with them. And I felt like maybe I was in the right, it made me feel like Sweet Home was the right spot because they were actually reaching out to me and communicating with me in real life now. Like we switched from one medium to another.
That's really cool. It's like, we don't have to do that anymore because she's right there. That is actually really cool. I love that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, I got stopped. I got flagged. After that, I got flagged down by a logger at the bank one time. Actually, it's a funny story. I was over in the line at Dairy Queen. I was getting ice cream with my daughter, and he was over at the bank, and he yelled at me. He's like, "Hey, have you found Bigfoot yet?" And so we're yelling back and forth, and we exchanged numbers. And he's a great guy. He ended up telling me about a spot up in Quartzville. And Quartzville is where Green Peter Reservoir is. And it is full of water, and it is full of quartz. And it is one of the most energetic places I have ever been. I love it there. I spend all my time, and all the locals love it there too. That's like their playground, So, so I went up there, and I hung out, every day or every other day for a couple of weeks in the spring. This was still spring. And I took my anonymous friend up there with me again, and we were cruising around, and we found a spot where there was just a really fresh, beautiful, thick canopy of moss on top of asphalt. So it was an old logging road. And the road had been blocked off by concrete barriers. And we pulled up to the concrete barrier. I'd been there a couple times before that week. And I wanted to show him because I thought it was just so beautiful with all the moss and everything. It was a beautiful spot. And we pulled down, and we could tell that the moss was pulled up. Like there was something going on. Something had ran through there. And he said, "Well, hold on a second. Let me get out and check it out." So he got out, and he walked out about maybe about 50 feet or so. And he turns around and looks at me, and he does that beckoning call with his finger, like, come here, So I got out of the car, and as soon as I got to the other side of the barrier, there were just Bigfoot prints everywhere. Like they had just ran through there, and you could see it's kind of a downward slope. And you could see a slide, like there would be slides that were like 2, 3, 4 feet long, and then a footprint. And this went on for maybe, I don't know, maybe about 100 or 200 yards. So I quit counting after I got to 50. I lost track. There were elk prints too. Later on, I took somebody up there with me, and I showed it to him, and he showed me that some of them were elk prints. And he stuck his fingers in the moss, and he pushed it back, and he showed me. So this is what an elk print looks like, but this is what a Bigfoot print looks like. Okay. So there were elk and Bigfoot prints. And at the time when I actually recorded it. It's on the web or on the Facebook page. Actually, Priscilla recorded it. And I didn't know that at that time, but I know that now. So, so we were like, okay, this is the place, And a couple weeks after that, I was driving through with Tammy and Lee Sanford. She's in my group. She's one of my research. She's actually one of the original researchers. And we were driving together down that road. And I looked I'm looking forward, and then I kind of glanced off to the left a little bit. And this Bigfoot appeared right in front of me. And from the toes up, just kind of manifested and was standing there in between two trees. And I could see, like, it was absolutely an organic figure. It had hair. I could see its fingers. And then just as quick as it appeared, it disappeared. And I stopped the car, and I told Tammy and Lee, I said, did you guys see that? And I started hyperventilating because it startled me. And they're like, no, what are you talking about? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is twice now that I've seen them with somebody, but they haven't, So then I started really thinking, okay, oh God, what's wrong with me? Like, am I manifesting this myself or what? But Jeremiah, this is the interesting thing, is when I got home, I cried about it for about 20 minutes. I was so upset because nobody else saw what I saw. And it spoke to me, and it told me, I have been with you your whole life. I've been protecting you. So I met him. He was the one in my dream.
Okay. Wow. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. It still gives me goosebumps when I think about it. But that's when, like, around the time that I started having, I guess, telepathy with them or visions. It's more like visions of, seeing things and stuff. When I went down to the footprints, I remember I turned around and I looked, and I was like, where did they come from? And I thought, there's another road there, a trail that goes up, and then it's blocked by a bunch of trees and stuff. But then on the corner, there's some trails, and there's an old, what do you call it? The line where, like, the loggers used to use to run the logs down the hill. I forget what it's called. It's like a spit line or something. Or, okay. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I forget what it's called. But anyways, that's would be a good trail, especially for big game and stuff. And but in my mind, I saw them come down that the paved asphalt trail, and I said, that's where they came from. And the person I was with was like, no, I think they came from up there where that old logging trail is, up on the hill. And I was like, no, they came down the asphalt. So I drove up there, and lo and behold, there's a whole bunch of prints going all the way back and over those trees, logs that were laying down over the asphalt. So, and there's also moss up there on the sides of the road and the asphalt. So that's where I saw the prints, was in that moss right there. These visions start happening, or this telepathy starts happening, you know. Yeah.
That's exactly where I wanted to go. So that just started happening this year in 2025.
Yes.
Oh,
yep.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That just started happening this spring in May. As soon as I, really started getting into these trails up here in Quartzville. Yeah.
So that's extremely interesting. And it kind of, there's a theory I have, which is people go to certain areas, especially in the Pacific Northwest, that are like, I don't want to say, well, kind of heavily charged with Bigfoot activity, like really, really charged. Like we're talking like, Oak Hole is probably another example of this. And after they go away from there, sometimes stuff will kick in. They'll start experiencing the same exact things that you just mentioned, which is maybe things like telepathy, or sometimes I talked to many, many people that went up to that area in Oak Ridge, and then they started having really intense dreams and related phenomenon. So I don't know exactly what it is, but it really lines up with how you're explaining what you're experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah. And when he told me, I wanted to mention too, that when he told me that he was protecting me my whole life, Jeremiah, that rings true, because I needed that kind of protection when I was younger, because I was surrounded by a few really bad people, but I didn't experience the badness as bad as I could have. So that resonates with me. Like, I do believe that I had some kind of spiritual protection during that time in my life. It could have been way worse. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. So
yeah.
Knowing, you have a lot of knowledge about this area, and living in the Pacific Northwest, and this is just a really active Bigfoot area. Are most of the things that you hear relatively peaceful encounters when a person has a sighting, or are there times when things can escalate, or bluff charges, things like that?
That's a really great question, and I've been studying that. So during the spring and summer, they are very peaceful interactions. There's no aggression. It's usually family oriented, or, it's just some guys out fishing, whatever. They don't start getting aggressive until hunting season starts. And bow season starts August 31st. And in August, mid-August, is when these reports start getting aggressive.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense, that you have humans going out there with their weapons, and of course things might get aggressive, right? I would too if someone came into my house with something.
With a grocery sack and started taking food out of your refrigerator. That's what I compare it to.
Yeah.
It's like they're competing for a food source now. So, they're like, hey, okay, just get out of here, Yeah, totally. So recently, I wanted to tell you this. This was, I know that I had scheduled an appointment to talk to you earlier, but that was during the time when I was having a lot of stuff going on around me with the Bigfoots. And I wanted to wait and kind of write it out and see what else was going to happen. And so this happened 4 weeks ago. And I was driving down Quartzville Road. And actually, it had started. I had meetings on the last Saturday of every month. We all meet at this place called the Dam Bar in Sweet Home. And, it's for anybody who's interested in talking about Bigfoot. We gather, we hang out, and then, we go out squatching afterwards. That's really fun. And most of the time, I have one of my group members, Eric Massey. He's one of my admins. I love him to death. He's a squatcher through and through. He comes all the way from Bend, and he camps because that's kind of a long drive, So he camps up in Quartzville, and we always go up there, and we go up to that spot now. I call it my spot, the sweet spot. And we camp. And so one night, this was 4 weeks ago at our last meeting, we went up there and nothing was happening. It was super quiet. And I'm so close, like as the crow flies, I'm probably about maybe 15 miles, maybe 20 at the most away from my spot. So it takes me about an hour to get home. I was like, dude, I'm not camping tonight. I'm going to go home. I'm going to sleep in my bed and I'll be back at 6:00 in the morning. And he's like, all right, cool. He had his fiance with him, so he wasn't alone, and, so I headed down the hill. I was excited because I wanted to see how fast I could get down the hill in the dark. So I timed myself, and it took like 7 minutes. I was like, wow, this is awesome. I'm driving down the road, Quartzville Road, and I get to this really popular campsite. And there's a curve. And right as I come around the curve, right straight in front of me, about 50 to 100 feet in front of me, is 2 sets of red glowing eyes. And there's one set on the left side of me that's really low to the ground, like its head was on the ground. And then to the right, there was another set of eyes that was from the side of the road, from the ground. It was probably about 4 feet or maybe 5 feet up in the air. So it was relatively low to the ground. And I instantly slowed way down, almost to a complete stop. As a matter of fact, I think I did stop for a moment completely. And I remember thinking right away, who is in the woods in the middle of the night? It was 10:30. It was 10:30 at night, in pitch dark, with like steampunk goggles. That's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, who has steampunk goggles in the middle of the night on Quartzville Road? This is just crazy. So I started sneaking up. I'm going about 10 miles an hour, and I'm sneaking up to them. I'm getting really, really close to them, and I'm just looking at them. And then I noticed that their eyes are kind of shaped. They're about as big around as a large chicken egg. And they're so far apart. Each eye would be, you could measure it by probably putting the eggs on the side of my head. That's how far apart their eyes were. And I thought, this isn't an owl. It's not an owl. Their heads aren't that big. It's not an elk. Elks are huge. They have horns. All these things are running through my head. And the one to the right behind the tree, and I say she because it just gave me that feminine energy. I could see a silhouette, and she kind of had curly hair. And she'd look at me, and then she's kind of standing sideways behind a tree. So I can only see her from the shoulder up. And she'd look at me, and then she'd turn around and look behind her. And she did that maybe 3 or 4 times. She was trying to pay attention to something that was behind her. And then I looked over at the one on the ground, and it kind of locked eyes with me. So the one on the left-hand side of the road, it locked eyes with me. And it didn't take its eyes off me. It just kept its eyes on me the whole time. I looked back to the right, to that one, and she was doing the same thing, and she was kind of making, it was like a weird motion. It was like a real delicate kind of sway. And then I looked over again at the one on the left, and I was so close, I was almost even with them. And my headlights went over its back. And as it did that, its back kind of rippled, and like this sparkly kind of glow like an iridescent kind of glow. And it watched me pass. And my window was down. Never once did I have the feeling like I should roll my window up. I wasn't scared. It didn't make me feel uneasy. It just made me like wonder, what is it? And yeah, so I passed through in between both of them. And he's literally 10 feet away from me. He's right on the side of the road. And I passed between them. And I remember I slowed down, way down again once I got probably about 1.5, 2 car lengths away from them. And I looked in my rearview mirror and I couldn't see anything, nothing at all. I was like, okay, I took a deep breath and I drove home. And I thought about it a little bit, and I was like, oh, whatever, I got to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I went to bed, and I came back at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I remember I stopped and I looked, and I saw that on the driver's side, where the one was really low to the ground, there's a culvert there. And if you were to stand in it and bend over, you would be even with the ground, your head would be on the ground on the side of the road. The culvert is probably about 4 feet deep at least. And then I looked on the other side of the road, and the grass is all pushed down. And also there is a culvert. And later on, me and my other friend went up there and checked it out. And there's a footprint there. And if you would stand where that creature was standing, it would be about 7, 8 feet tall.
That is incredible. When you were driving down there that night, so did you have lights on, whatever it was, or did you have your lights off?
Yeah. No. So when I came around the corner, I had my bright lights on. And when I saw them, instantly I flicked down to my dims.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to blind them, and just instant reaction. I just flicked them down to my dims, and I kept my dims on until I passed them, because I didn't want to blind them. I was just trying to be courteous, and this was before I had my floodlights on. Like a few days after that, I ordered floodlights for my car.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I was like, I need floodlights, and also I got cameras for my car too. So now I have front and back cameras. Wish I would have had them during that time, but yeah.
After you put the cameras in, did you notice that you were still having things happen when you're driving around different places, or did that kind of did that peter out?
Yeah, it petered out. Yep. Yeah. Yep. So I started just recently, within the past couple of weeks, I started actually turning my cameras off when I drive into certain places. Because I don't want to, I feel like they know, they know, they don't want to be seen. And I have a theory about their eyes too. I think that because I posted about it in my group and in the Sasquatch Highway, because I admin that group as well. And I posted about it, asking people, hey, have you seen these red glowing eyes? Not yellow, not blue, not purple, whatever, red glowing eyes, and what people's theories are on it. And I've come to a conclusion that I don't think it has anything to do with them being evil or, a dog man or anything like that. And my personal belief, this is my personal belief. I believe that it could be a way for them to signal to other Sasquatch that they're with, that, here I am. That's how they keep track of each other, or it could even be like a night vision for them. Like that's how they see at night.
I would say I have heard similar things, and I think you are on a very interesting track. I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
It's still new.
Yep.
Yeah. That's where I'm leaning, at least. Yeah.
You mentioned that your research area goes up to Detroit sometimes, Detroit, Oregon. I drove up through there on the way to Estacada after the festival last year. Detroit is such an interesting area. I mean, it was It's very hard to explain. It's beautiful. You have that island in the middle of Detroit Lake, but it's just something about it. I mean, it feels heavy in there. It's very weird. I tried to talk to a few people. I was stopping at random places. No one was really wanting to talk. It was interesting. Yeah. Have you had anything interesting happen up there in Detroit?
Not anything out of the ordinary aside from that heavy feeling that you talk about. So when we go up there, we camp on the south side of the lake, and that area actually backs up to Quartzville area. So they're connected. You can actually take the trails back there and you can drive all the way to Detroit Lake from Quartzville. So, and it's awesome. It's so, because it goes through the old Santiam forest and everything else. So, but as far as Detroit Lake goes, it's just a feeling. It's that heavy feeling. But yeah, no, we've never, but I've heard so many reports of that area. That area in Highway 22. 22 is the one that goes through Detroit. And the lakes on the north side of 22, there's a lake up there called Fay Lake that I research a lot. And I have quite a few reports of them being very aggressive up there. And it's usually during hunting season, and it's men who take their campers up there. They'll actually throw rocks and sticks and shake the campers at night when they're sleeping.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you said, did you say Fay Lake?
Fay, F-A-Y. Yep.
Oh, okay. F-A-Y. I was like, F-A-E? That would be interesting. So F-A-Y Lake. Now, because you brought it up again, I was like, if she brings it up again, I'm gonna ask a little bit more. So you mentioned that this area does have a lot of aggressive reports. Are there any that you can think of in particular, or it's just you find certain patterns in these reports that usually come out when it's an aggressive report?
Well, there's a gentleman that I talked to. Him and his brother-in-law have both had experiences up there during hunting season with their campers. And yeah, it was just the rock throwing at the campers and then the shaking of the campers. And he told me that his brother-in-law was so frightened that he hooked his trailer back up and left that night before it even got daylight. He was out of there and he won't go back. So, but the gentleman who gave me the report, he told me he's really cautious when he goes up there. He pays attention to his surroundings and, and I notice a lot of people too, like a lot of these hunters, they want to remain anonymous because they're like flesh and blood, but when they go out into the forest, they'll talk to them and they'll be like, hey, I'm here peacefully. I don't, mean you any harm. I just want to get my deer for the winter and go, And I noticed that when they talk to them and just, tell them their intentions and manifest that spiritual protection or whatever, that they'll have better experiences out there.
Oh, wow. So these are actual hunters that are talking in a way that you might not normally hear hunters talk, but it seems like they're aware of that. We better do this, or there could be issues. Man,
Absolutely.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is, because I want to mention too, like that changed them. Those experiences that they had with Bigfoot changed them and made them more like spiritual beings,
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, that would really change you. Did I tell you? Actually, I wouldn't have been able to tell you because this happened after the festival. I don't know if you've heard. So I was up in Oak Hole, and I actually did try speaking out loud to the forest. What happened?
Nice. What happened?
It was weird. It was really weird, Shelley. So it's in, where Oak Hole is, right?
Yeah, I was there a couple of weeks ago with Priscilla. Yeah.
So you met, the meadow, right? So picture the meadow, and then there's that opening in the back. So I was walking back in that opening behind the meadow, and I was like, "Hey, if there's anything here, can you make a noise?" And like half a second later, there was like a 3 knocks in the woods, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And I said it again. I tried it because I was like, that just had to be, like coincidence, right? So I did the same thing again, and the same thing happened, and I was like, I'm out of here. Like I was like, I'm getting back to Ronnie and those guys. I should have walked into the woods, but I was like, I don't want to. I'm out here in my own. That's not smart, right?
Yeah.
But it was awesome. It was freaky.
Yeah, I bet. I remember Priscilla telling me about that. She didn't tell me who it was, but now I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I was just up there a couple weeks ago, and this is another really cool thing, Jeremiah, that I figured out. So like I'm really into maps and mapping and like ley lines and stuff like that. So I've been studying the region, and I finally figured out a couple weekends ago when I was up at Oak Hole, we went over to Owl Moon Lab and checked that out for a bit, that Quartzville, Oak Hole, and Owl Moon Lab make a perfect triangle on the map.
No way.
Isn't that crazy? Yes. And McKenzie Watershed runs right through it. Yep. And McKenzie Watershed is a huge place. They have tons of reports out of there. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
It's crazy.
That's
I
awesome.
know it. Yep. Yeah, I thought so too.
I've actually never heard that term before, the McKenzie Watershed. Is that just a term for a region in that area, or?
Well, the McKenzie River runs through there.
Okay.
So, and Oak Hole and Owl Moon Lab and Quartzville they all have like a lot of quartz and stuff, a lot of rock. It's up in the mountains, of course, but the quartz in particular it's an energy rock, it's a conduit. So with the water and everything, with McKenzie River being right there, I have a theory that it's just a really, really powerful energy point in that whole area.
Absolutely. I remember I've heard and talked to so many people over the years. It was either a conversation with Tobe or an interview with Tobe where he was talking about where that's pretty much what Henry Franzoni would bring up about the Owl Moon Lab areas. There's so much quartz, and also you have the water as well, and it potentially charges it, right? Which
Absolutely.
is just interesting to think of.
And I think that's why Oak Hole and Owl Moon Lab in Quartzville are so active, and there's so many reports coming out of those areas is because, and I kind of feel like too, like the attitude is different. They're not, as far as I know, even in Oak Hole and Owl Moon Lab, they're not super aggressive, and they're more willing to communicate. So maybe that might have something to do with it.
It could. I'm trying to think real quick. Well, let's see. The only aggressive thing would be, and this is all in how you interpret it, because you've got Ronnie and Dwayne's encounter. Ronnie made the noise that was aggressive, and I think that was kind of a bluff charge thing, an extended bluff charge for multiple hours. Kind of aggressive, but everything else, you're capturing language and voices on audio sometime up there. Have you had anything out of the ordinary happen up there at all?
Yeah, so most of the stuff that I've experienced has been electronic. So when I was up there with Priscilla a couple weeks ago, we were having a lot of equipment malfunctions. Our cameras, audio, everything was just malfunctioning. I think Ben drove up there, Priscilla's son, and something was going weird with his car or his car battery or something. I also have a lot of electronic malfunctions over in my area with my car, not with any of my equipment, but the mirrors on my car. So I've got a 2017 Outback, so I have eyesight, and it's a limited edition.
Right.
So it's got the works. And on my mirrors, I have that blind spot sensor. It'll blink when there's a car in my blind spot. And this has only happened up at Quartzville, on Quartzville Road at night. Those sensors will occasionally go off. And it's so weird because first the one on the left will go off, or the one on the right will go off. And then directly after, the one on the left will go off, kind of like something's running behind my car, and there's no cars or anything behind me. So I get that a lot up there.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that makes you think, for sure, when you hear stuff like that. Just very, very weird stuff. You said that you go over to Sisters as well. Is that right?
Yeah, Sisters area. Yep. We go up to Santiam Junction, and then Tombstone Pass is up there and everything. And then towards Sisters. I haven't done any overnight camps or anything up there, but it's a beautiful place. There's been several members in the group who have seen structures and footprints up in Sisters. So, yeah.
Okay.
I need to do a little more exploring up there.
Yeah, it's really an interesting area. I stayed at a place called Subtle Lake there after the festival for a few days, and drove up to a place called Camp Sherman, which is a beautiful area. I mean, it's like a trout fishing vacation area, but it's like, you get out in those woods. It's a whole different time period for sure. You just feel like you're back in the 50s or something. It's weird.
Right. Yeah, it's really weird. That's like up at Quartzville. There's old logging cabins that you can't really get to, but you can see them if you stop and you look over the hill and down, and you can see these old logging cabins that have probably been abandoned for 100 years. That's so cool.
Since we're talking about Quartzville, do you have any thoughts about the whole Giant's Door thing?
I do.
Okay.
I researched that area. Now, we all know about the video that went viral. And then there's been a couple other videos of people rappelling down that rope. There's a rope there, and I don't advise anybody to do it because it's a very steep slope, and the rope ends abruptly 30 feet off the ground. And if you were to fall, you would definitely hurt yourself. But there had been Bigfoot. There's two that I know of, Bigfoot reportings of somebody seeing one on top of that ridge up there. But as far as the door goes, the only thing I've really heard about that is that video that went viral, and then a couple of other people who checked it out. It doesn't really pique my interest all that much.
It's one of those weird, kind of viral TikTok things. And then when I found out where it was, I was like, oh yeah, okay, well that kind of makes sense. But with the Sweet Home group, Shelley, do you have a goal in mind? Why is it that you want to keep growing this group? What is it that you guys are working towards?
Yeah, so I think in the beginning, I wanted to be able to connect with somebody in this way because of my special interest in it, and because I needed that support at that time in my life. And there's several things about the group. Like as far as growing it, I'm not interested in growing that. I admin for the Sasquatch Highway, and his group, Ken's group, is huge, and I love that it's growing every day, and it's a perfect place for everybody to go. My group I vet everybody very carefully because of privacy issues, because of beliefs. If you don't believe in Bigfoot, I don't particularly think that my group would be good for you. If you're interested, or you have an open mind, or you want to know more and explore, by all means, please come join us, but I can't. For number one of my pet peeves is people trolling on the internet. I hate it. It's unnecessary. It's a pastime I can't get into. You know what I mean? So it's a serious group. And so now my goal for the group is just exploration and research. The more researchers I know, the more I learn. And I love that. But it's ultimately it's for me, it's for my own, source of information and education. But anybody is welcome to join. Just know that you'll be vetted.
That's
so
awesome.
if you don't believe, then go somewhere else.
Right. It is a really good group. You do a really good job with keeping drama and stuff out of it. And I appreciate that as a member.
Thank you.
As our time starts to wrap up, I'm curious, just because of the way you view things and your background. Having also had a few visuals, do you have any thoughts about what a Bigfoot actually is, when we are, or what a Sasquatch actually is?
Yeah, I think it's real, and I think it's a flesh and blood type creature who has the abilities that we either haven't been able to really tap into yet, or abilities that we've lost over the ages. I think that there's a reason why it's here, and I believe that once you're tagged, and that if you have one experience, you will continue to have more experiences upon their discretion. I don't think that they're by chance. I think that there's a purpose. I do think that some people have, happened to come upon them accidentally or something like that. But I think that a lot of these people, a lot of the serious researchers in the community, they've been tagged and they've been chosen. And there's so much more to learn. And I think we're starting to finally come into that age of, what exactly it is. I don't know exactly what it is, what the message is, but it could just be personal for each one of us. It could just be a personal message, and each one of our messages is different. But they're spiritual. There's something metaphysical about them. And it's magical, and I'm going to start crying.
That's a cool way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. And that's just how I feel about them. Yeah.
Well, Shelley, this has been a great conversation. I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. I want to make sure you were able to share everything that you had wanted to share on the show today, as we start to close out.
Yeah, I think I did want to mention that just recently I got some really cool photos up on the ridge in Quartzville of what I think could be a portal. So I don't know if you guys are interested in that, then head over to the Sweet Home Oregon Sasquatch Research Group page and check that out. The photos are there. I get a lot of conflicting, reports from photographers and stuff like that, but I think they're really interesting, and they do coincide with some things that I've seen up there. So, but that's it. I think we covered everything, Jeremiah.
That's fantastic.
Up until today.
Which is pretty awesome, actually. And I'll have the link for Shelley's group in the description or show notes for this episode, guys, so you can easily find it. But thank you so much for coming on the show, Shelley, and look forward to being able to talk to you in person next year as well.
Absolutely. I can't wait. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. Every encounter we share reminds us that the world is bigger and stranger than we think, and that the truth is often hiding just beyond the tree line. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube Hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode, and share this with a friend who's into mysteries, monsters, or the unexplained. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast, please follow the show there and leave us a 5-star positive review, because all of that helps more people discover the show. And remember, if you or someone you know has had a Bigfoot sighting, please, I'd love to hear from you. So email me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com and let's start the conversation. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, check out our membership community over at www.bigfootsocietypodcast.com. And that's where you can hear tomorrow's episode today, early and ad-free, and members-only episodes every week. Also, it's a place to connect with other people that are into the Bigfoot subject as much as you are. Thanks again for following along with the Bigfoot Society. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and never stop asking what else might be out there. And see you in the woods.